Me and my parents went to a ballet performance last night, and I had such a revelation when I was there. I did not have access to my phone for an hour and a half. It was tucked away in my purse. And I suddenly experienced such clarity in my thoughts. I was just sitting there admiring the performance, and I was thinking about my life and pondering so many life questions out of the blue. And then I remembered that phone addiction is truly robbing us of deep focus and rewarding work and ultimately success in life. I think in today's world, the ability to focus truly makes us stand out. Hey guys, my name is Paulina. If this is your first time on my channel, and I want to talk about phone addiction and how to reduce it and get back to deep, meaningful work that helps us succeed in life. My problem is that I'm deeply addicted to my phone, and I suspect that the majority of people can relate to me. When I'm constantly interacting with my phone, my thoughts start to feel really shallow. My concentration starts to feel shallow, and there is no depth in terms of what I'm thinking or what I'm experiencing because I'm constantly distracted by my phone. I find that putting the screens away for me feels very difficult. Like I don't want to part with my distractions, with my dopamine addiction. This results in me constantly delaying my best work, the kind of work that requires really deep focus, very similar to almost like this meditative state when you don't even notice how the time is passing by. I still do work, especially when there is an external obligation, like some sort of third party waiting for me to complete something. I feel the responsibility and I end up working anyways. But what if you are a self-managing entrepreneur? What if you have all of these creative thoughts that you are just not bringing to the point of fruition in real life? I think then the question becomes much more essential because we carry responsibility for ourselves and the outcomes of our work. This addiction to my phone is one of the most essential things that I want to change this year because I have so many dreams and I have such a grand vision for where I want to be that I just don't want for this one device to get in my way. The state of flow is such a beautiful state. I think it's the state of happiness that we can get from doing something that we truly love. I love the state of being. And I love the kind of work that requires these many hours of concentration where I just lose myself in it because I'm so immersed. In the past, I spent a lot of my time in the flow state. When I was a child, I was constantly writing different stories and brainstorming ideas and using my imagination. Then I spent hours and weeks and months of my life and years, honestly, creating architecture projects. And all of that required this deep concentration. Now I still do architecture, but I also sometimes lose myself in coding or running or playing piano. However, I've noticed that today it's much harder for me to set aside time for this deep focus state than it was in my childhood. When I was a child, it was completely effortless. Recently, I read a few books that helped me understand the problem and acknowledge what was happening to me and to many other people around the world. One of them is Stolen Focus by Johann Hari, in which the author decided to go to Provincetown for 3 months and leave all of the devices at home. And that was a truly life-changing experience for him. I also read Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, and I really enjoyed that book as well. In that book, Cal Newport, who is the professor of economics at Princeton, talks about intentional solitude and what that does to our imagination and our thinking process. I've also heard this book called Flow by Mihail Csikszentmihalyi. I can't pronounce his last name, but I really want to read that one as well. It's on my book list. And another one I really want to read is also by Cal Newport, and it's called Deep Work. When we are constantly on our phones, not only do we not get into the flow state, but also our productivity suffers because we're constantly inundated by different notifications. We keep checking them and we just cannot get to this zone where we are thinking very deeply. And I also think that when we are not distracted and we're thinking on our own, we give our soul a voice. We let ourselves be creative and original. But when we are perpetually checking our phones, we are exposed to all of these ideas that someone else created. And thus our true voices can get muffled. That's why I think when we're away from our phones, we can produce our best, most original work. What are the solutions that I'm currently implementing? My number one solution is to understand why you want to do something. Understanding your why, understanding your priorities is honestly the biggest thing that is going to keep you going. It is one thing that will drive you and motivate you and fuel you on your way to success. Once you understand your why, create a system that allows you to spend multiple hours a day away from your phone. I work from home a lot, and what I do is I put my phone into a different room for some period of time. It doesn't have to be long. Don't try to start with something unrealistic or unachievable. You might try to put it away for 1 hour at first. You just put your phone into a different room. You can even close the door, or you can put it in a drawer. And in this way, you will be left without your phone. And I've noticed that if my phone is not within my immediate reach, I am much less likely to go out of my way to look at it. If I'm sitting on my desk and my phone is right next to me, I will keep grabbing it because it's almost like an escape route. It's like I'm trying to escape the uncomfortable feeling of working hard. But if it is in a separate room, I'm not going to be like standing up and walking all across the apartment. I am much more likely in that case to actually work and focus. Another thing I do is I occasionally delete certain apps from my phone. For example, Instagram. Instagram is my Achilles heel. Like whenever I have it on my phone, I will keep opening it. Even if I don't spend that much time on the app, it is definitely very distracting for me. So whenever I feel like I'm reaching the point of enough, I just delete the app from my phone. You can pick an app that is the most addictive for you and do the same thing with it. Another thing I try to do is I try to batch certain tasks together. For example, if I have a lot of messages in the morning, I might reply to as many of them as I can in the morning and then put my phone away instead of, constantly replying to a stream of messages all throughout the day. If you can allow yourself to do something like that, I think that's very helpful as well. Another thing you can do is focus on forming certain habits. I love the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And in this book, he says, you should make useful habits as easy as possible and harmful habits as difficult as possible. That's why I'm talking about putting the phone into a separate room, because then it's harder to grab it, right? In a similar fashion, you should make your deep work habits as easy as possible. And in this book, he gives a lot of advices about how you can do that. So I highly, highly recommend reading it. Another hack is to remove notifications from as many apps as you can, because every notification is a distraction. Every single time you look at a notification, you fall out of that flow state, and then it takes a lot of time to get back into it because your brain cannot constantly be switching between multiple avenues of thought. It has to stay consistent on one thing in order to get to that required depth where you want to be. By removing notifications, you also start to make your phone less interesting. And the less interesting you make it, the less likely you will be to grab it. So if you keep removing clutter and noise from your life with all of these very small techniques, I think ultimately it will deliver a grand cumulative effect. I know there is so much more that you can do and I can do as well, but I think these are very good first steps. Oh, and the last thing I'm going to mention is that I also try to train my attention by uninterrupted reading. Sometimes I just put my phone away where I cannot reach it and I set a timer for, let's say, like 30 minutes or 1 hour, and I just read throughout this entire time without doing anything else. And one last thing that I started doing this year is I no longer sleep in the same room as my phone. I leave my phone out in the kitchen before I go to bed. I have the charging station in the kitchen, and then I sleep in my bedroom without my phone. I have a very old phone that's not even connected to the internet. I use it as my alarm, but when I'm in my bedroom, I am just reading or I'm sleeping. I'm not doing anything else. And when I wake up, I'm not looking at my phone first thing in the morning. I first get up and I brush my teeth, and then I allow myself to take a glance at what's happening with my notifications and everything. I recently asked my father if he works on the weekends because he runs his own business and he's a very, very busy person. But he told me, Polina, no, I don't work on the weekends, because if I just keep spending all my time on the phone over the weekends, I just wouldn't have time to think. Like, he needs this uninterrupted time to think. We all do. We get our best work, our best thoughts. We get all of these creative ideas when we are by ourselves, when we're not with our phones. So I hope this video inspired you in some way. I hope it can help you get back to your most creative work. And I will see you in my next video, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye.